I kind of just,
I'm so
I kind of,
sorry. So
that's
sorry.
okay.
Go ahead.
So 2018 was kind of me getting started in the lactation field. And then I thought, well, I'm going to need some expert. Who else works with families? So in our community, we have the Oneida FACE program. It's a kind of like a preschool. They're located in our elementary school. They have home visitors, and then they have children or school age children that go to the turtle school. So I thought these, women are out and about in the community. They may know where women are working, where they need help. So I invited all the home visitation staff through FACE. We have another program called Oneida Early Intervention. Yes, that's Rose Redhill. Kind of like a birth to 3, but ours is birth to 5. So she also is in the homes working with families. And then the Oneida Early Head Start. They have a home visitation program for prenatal till they start Head Start till 3. So I got them together, a couple of the nurses. I did invite like our pediatric department, anybody who's going to come across women nursing in the community. And I started this Oneida breastfeeding group. So group of professionals kind of sitting around saying, what do you see? They're out there on the ground, they're hearing what the moms are saying. So then I started to say, well, how can we support our moms in the community? And where do you see any workplaces that need improvements, or moms saying they're having a really hard time pumping? So we kind of went from there. So that's 2018 through this past year, 2022, I selected a different building each year to work on, and we have many. So I counted on the professionals, and I counted on the women that I work with in the community, word of mouth, my family. So just kind of, and there was a need. It's kind of funny because no one really is assigned to do this work. My official title is prenatal care coordinator. So I work with pregnant women until 2 months postpartum. And I became certified for lactation counselor on my own because I seen the need. I wanted to help moms more, but there's really nobody out there checking to see if like these laws, and there's laws to stand behind improving workplaces to pump. So it just tied in good, and it was a good timing. So as of now, so that's 18 through 22, there's 13 Oneida Nation buildings that now have a lactation space for staff. And before, there was it was us here at the clinic. There was one at our human resource department, but it wasn't, I guess, very conducive for pumping. A lot of women are like, I'm not going to go to that dungeon and pump, so, but yeah, great gains in those past years, and now we're just making it known and supporting women in the workplace. So I kind of took, I'd love to go over all 13, but a couple of them just to list them, and they're in like a large group. So the first one was the casinos. Where do a majority of, and you kind of think of like childbearing women. Some of the facilities I approach, the ladies are like, yeah, we're too old. We don't need a pumping room. Well, you're going to retire some days. So wouldn't it be nice to kind of get this up and established for, future staff? And everybody was on board. Everybody was really cooperative. So the casinos that's where I found my first champions. I was so excited and really fortunate. There were 2, Monica Paulus, her was her maiden name, and Tanya Skinador. They were supervisors at the casino, and they actually had a pumping room also, but it was, not nicely decorated or advertised or anything. So I kind of started there first. We started with the 3 largest casinos, and they helped me. I got tours, everything is all on lockdown. So I met them. They kind of did the walkthrough of the 3 largest casinos and said, yeah, we're ready and willing to help you out. The policy, on the other hand, was a little bit harder to get. They had a very outdated SOP, or it was more like a memo to staff, like, yes, we encourage you to pump. Okay, work with your supervisor kind of thing. So that was all revised. And last I heard, it got all, signatures and was supposed to be distributed to staff. So, I mean, that's huge. I mean, we have a lot of people from all different backgrounds come into our casinos to work, and what an advantage to say, we have lactation rooms in 3 of the biggest casinos. And I said, well, what if they work in a smaller one? What would happen? And they said, well, we would do best even if it's a short-term transfer, or that they have access, if it was right next door or something. So And they were my first kind of adventure. And they actually came back to me 2 years later because they didn't have the rooms ready, but now they did. So they called me and said, Candy, we have 2 rooms. Can you come back? Because before it was a shared room. So that's not ideal, but you can have a break room and a pumping room. It's not ideal, but that was all they had at the time. And then like this past year, they said, we have one sole room. I want to give it to you for lactation. Awesome. So I went back and made little adjustments in the remodeling for that. The next one was the human resources. This was, I don't know if anybody from the tribe knows, it used to be like a hotel or a place. It was basically the tribe bought it, and in the basement was a bathroom, locker room, and it actually had lactation room. But you'll see pictures later, it was a chair and a table. The sink didn't have no soap, there was no paper towel. The mom there at the time, she's like, I ain't going down there and pump. She goes, nobody cleans it. She said, I can't like have nice thoughts in this room. So definitely worked on that place. Once again, our maintenance people met me there, and they were like, oh, that's Candy, she's calling, she probably wants the poster hung, or I had carpet, and they even put together like a bookshelf for me. Like I said, everybody was very, very cooperative. The next site was the elementary school. Some of the home visitors there said some of the parents would come in and do education sessions, and if they needed to pump, so they had a shared room. And then at the high school, that was another kind of request. So some I did for grant purposes, and then some, these are staff or even administrators calling saying, we have a mom here that pumps. And at the high school, it was actually a high school student. So definitely went in there, got her a fridge. They cleared out this room full of, old desks, and she had access to a bathroom, and really excellent scenario, got it situated, and she pumped like that entire school year. I think she was only 16, turning 17. So definitely kept an eye on her and gave her props for doing that. Oneida Retail, which is kind of like our one-stops, are like gas stations that we partially own. So there's 6 of them all throughout the reservation. And one was a request, said, this mom is having a hard time finding a place. Can you come help? And then I ended up having to really brainstorm. They didn't have much space. But like I said, supervisors gave me a tour. We kind of, passed ideas back and forth. And we ended up coming up with these boxes, which I'll show you a picture, kind of like a to-go kit for moms to take in any office space and be able to pump at that location. And these were the ones too, if they ended up being at the one that didn't have it, the supervisors knew, okay, mom's coming back from maternity, she should be in one of these 4 spots if she is going to pump. And then most recently this past year, I did governmental services, which is a huge, comprises of many programs. There's 7 buildings. And this one, the general manager, division director, Tina Jurgensen, I was referred to her through maintenance and different supervisors, and she herself said, come meet me, I'll tour this whole place with you. And it was the best idea because she was able, instead of me getting ideas of where I wanted to go, she was like, me and her would be like, how does this room look? Oh, this room looks good. Can I have this room? Sure, let me check. And she was the one with the authority, was able to get me the keys, was able to tell staff, heads up, Candy's going to be in and out of social services. I was at the fitness center where our recreation members go, and then we have cottages in the back. So like I said, excellent cooperation from her, and they're also their custodial staff. The guy gave me a cell phone. Like, yeah, text me, Candy, when you're here, because once again, they were it was a little difficult this year because we had COVID restrictions on buildings. So a lot of them, there was nobody there. It was like a ghost town at social services, but maintenance guys were always there, and I would call them, and they would help me out. So excellent situation. And I got that done with that one because I had other things to do. I was done and got everything ready to go by June. So getting better at it. So here's the elementary school, just to kind of give you, I love these before and after. I sat on a lot of meetings, and this really kind of, because you don't know what to do. What do you buy? How much room do you have to work with? So basically this top picture is the family home visitation room. It's a big, huge area. And they said, we still need this area here to work with families, but you can have this back part. So me and the teacher went back there, and these shelves were full of we have a lot of hoarders in our area. There's so many ancient stuff back there. So we got rid of tons of stuff. That this is actually cleaned. I should have took a picture of it before, where we were stepping over all kinds of stuff. But then I was able to buy a divider, a lamp, a chair, and then all rooms were provided with a refrigerator, which you can see on that top picture. And then I had a sign outside the door, and then kind of like a schedule if a staff person had needed it. And the home visitation program said, yes, their participants would use it. But at the time, I also had a staff person who was really struggling. Somebody said she was pumping in like a file room. I should have took a picture of that too. It was like literally like file cabinet next to her, and like another file cabinet. They just kind of stuck her in like in a private room. Yeah. So I was like, then I went and found her, and, told everybody else, and told the supervisors to let staff know that this is available. So this one too can be just kind of put up and put down based on need. This is a human resource department. Like I was telling you, that staff person, she's like, I ain't going down here. Look at this chair. There wasn't even any hand soap, no paper towel, not really an inviting area to be in. So we fixed that up real quick. I asked her for some advice. We have these excellent posters from Great Lakes that they gave us. They found me a table, a chair. I purchased a bookshelf so they could kind of store their stuff. That was another thing that women didn't know, like, do I leave my stuff here? Do I take it back and forth? It should be an area where they can just kind of go back and forth all day without hauling everything. So we created that, got the bookshelf, and then I got the sink, the mirror. Simple necessities that, maybe that woman wasn't able to advocate for herself, but, this is a pumping room, and there's like certain degrees you can be like a silver, a gold, or it's certain degrees, but we got this like up to par, and it was functional, it was relaxing, inviting, and just like pumping women deserve. So that was a success too. The retail locations, like I said, not enough room. They don't even have maybe like one office. So right here, they're saying this is obviously the utility rooms, pretty similar in each of the different gas stations. And they're like, this is available. And I was like, oh, I see a lot of like, do not this and do not that. So I contacted the engineers and said, am I able to work with this space? Is this space safe? And they said, no. Nobody can be in this area, longer than grab something and go, because the one reason was they didn't have sprinklers. It wasn't safe. They didn't have safety features there to be a place to, have lunch, pump, anything. Because I was ready, I could have totally worked with that and decorated it and, made it doable, but they were like, no. And then we went to the offices, and there's cameras everywhere. In bathrooms, if anybody don't know, that there's a specific law that bathrooms is not acceptable location. So I kept reiterating that, because a lot of people were like, well, what about the locker room, the bathroom? No, that is not a place for mom to pump. So we really had to brainstorm, because these are places with money. Same thing with the casino. Where can we put moms where there's no cameras? So the engineer, or the person I contacted, Troy Parr, he sent me a picture of these pop-up tents. He's like, hey, can we like use these in an office? Would that be, I guess appropriate? And I was like, it's going to have to be, or, that's the office that we talked about. We brainstormed about turning the cameras off, or, being in that office without the pop-up tent. And then, do the cameras on or off? I would be a little hesitant. So each of the retail locations got these kind of like lactation kits, and in them had the pop-up tent. It still had everything that the other rooms had: a stool, a fan, a clock. The one mom who needed one said she didn't have enough room, or her pump didn't reach to the cord. So then we had to add extension cords, and then the power strips. So each one, we kind of came across a different obstacle for moms, and it was very unique for each site. So these are in each of the 4 retail locations. And my next thing is to go around into the 13 locations and kind of do a checkpoint. It's supposed to be I guess, the people on site, but I think I would feel better if I kind of went and saying, is everything in place? It's everything is labeled. It says it's for the lactation program, you know, so nobody's using the fan or the clock or anything. It's all for that mom. And here's the casinos. So these are the ones that they came back to me this past year and said, we found a room, Candy. So this is at IMAC, just an empty room, not used. And then I turned it into, got another bookshelf, another shelf. In the far corner, you can't see, but there's a chair, a stool, and across the way is a table. And then also with all this, we always have resources available. So there's a pack of resources for families. And this one on top here is at IMAC, where they could not find one and the staff was not willing to give up a room. So that's where they had a shared space. But the supervisors got back to me 2 years later and said, Candy, we have a room for you. So came over, same thing, added decorations, fridge, table, signage, and then there's usually like a sign-up sheet. Say moms have a schedule. You know, they go at 10 and 2. Can someone else go at 11 and 3? You know, kind of like a schedule of usage. So these were the 2 casinos that came back and did further improvements, which is awesome. And this year, governmental services, they gave me a big, huge office. They're like, work with this. Is this good enough? I was like, yeah. And because everybody, this, like I said, that has tons of buildings in it. And I was like, all right, for these ones, we had, the obstacle was, how do we get in? Because all these places are locked and people from this end of the building could use it in this end. So the maintenance staff were totally awesome and gave me a lockbox outside. Punch in, there's the key and you can get in. Because I did not want this mom running around saying, who has the key for the pumping room? Who has the key? That was my worst fear for this particular setup. So problem solved that, and that was good to go. So here, and I didn't ask them to remove the desk, but I came back like a week later and they're like, yeah, room's clear. I was like, oh, sweet, thanks. So had to find more tables, chair, those posters are really awesome. Same thing with the fan. Over here is a table for the resources. So awesome setup. Like this is that social services for, there's like several departments in that one building. Over here is a fitness center where recreation, you go to work out. They had this assessment room that was not in use. So when we took a tour, their supervisor's like, take this room. Nobody's ever in here. All right. So once again, maintenance did all kinds of work orders. They're probably sick of my work orders. Oh no, work order from Candy. But I was like, getting to town, I really like to do my work orders. And I'd say, tell me when it's done. And they cleared everything out. These, if you can see, some of these buildings were made of brick, you know, so I couldn't hang a lot of things. So that was another work order to drill something in to hang posters. But here was the end result. They even found me a nice, soft, comfy chair, table, fridge, everything was in there. Same thing with the key. All right, they want to keep this locked. So I put it on a red lanyard and they have to check in at the front desk. I'm here to use a lactation room. They would get the key and return it. And the other one not pictured is at the arts building, is a cottage where there's only 2 staff. So if anybody else there's, I don't know, say 4 cottages out there. So we have a room accessible to those that work in the cottage. We have one though right in the middle at the fitness center. And then we have one at the social services. And this encompasses all of governmental services. So it was really amazing that I said, well, can I have more than one? You know, one over here, one over there. And, you know, like I said, Tina was really accommodating and flexible and supportive. And she said now she's designating somebody else to create a policy. That was the hardest thing, is getting the policy made. And within that policy will be instructions of how staff can use it. Where's the key? Who do you contact? My name is on everything if they have any questions or concerns. But that was this past year's accomplishment. So I just wanted to end with, I have Andrea. She is a fellow community health nurse with me here at the community clinic, and to tell us about her experience. She is a nursing mom. I think her baby is going to be 2 in October. She's still going strong, and she uses the lactation room in the WIC department. And they started their lactation room on their own in 2012, 2013, before I even started. So they have a policy in place and have a room, usually a sole room. It kind of sounds like it's going to change for a moment, but they kind of were ahead of us, and I was able to use their policy, get policies from other different organizations to share with those that have it, because that's what's going to keep it strong is your policy. The room can go away and disappear without you knowing it, but if you have that policy in place and it says this, there needs to be a designated area, then that's going to keep it sustainable. That's really the thing. I know in a lot of places where people work, people come and go, offices are free and then not. So I'm still kind of wrapping around along with, do you have the equipment? Are moms using it? How is your policy? Because that's really what's going to maintain it. And I was real fortunate to have those champions to help me. Yeah, come on in, I'll give you a tour. Yeah, I'll help you. You know, really knowing the benefits of breastfeeding for mom and baby, and really supportive. Like I said, at the casino, they were 2 past breastfeeding moms. They made it happen. They're like, oh, heck yeah, this should be in the tribe all over the place, you know? So I was real fortunate in that point. So I will just hand it over to Andrew, and anybody else that's on the line that wants to share any good experiences you had with lactation at work, maybe areas of improvement to help those professionals on the line, and any advice.
Thanks, Candy.
Yeah.
Can you see my video? Okay. So my experience with lactation at work, well, the biggest thing was that I didn't have to pump in a bathroom or a closet. So that was a good thing. And so the area that I pump in is a really nice space. It's an office with a refrigerator, a cozy chair, a sink, a locked door, and like all the resources like Candy said. And the best part is that it's close to all of the lactation counselors in the WIC nutrition area too. So if I had a question on anything, I could just ask them anything, and they'd be there for an answer. Um, the and the whole for my whole entire time using the lactation room, I think I've been the only one using it. I might have shared the room with one other mom for like a month. So I really could use the room whenever. I didn't have to stick to like a schedule or anything. So that was really nice. One of the parts that wasn't so great was being moved around a couple times. There was a construction in that department, so I had to move to a different room. And the other thing that's not so great too is that it's was also used as the breastfeeding peer counselor's office. So whenever I went to go pump, I'd kind of kick her out of her office, which she didn't mind at all. But right now that position is vacant, so it's an empty office. But actually starting this week, I think they're hiring a new person. And then that leads me to one of a weird experience that I had was that they recently told me, the department that takes care of that room, was that the contract that I signed to use the lactation room was now revised to only include moms who are less than 13 months postpartum. So that was a interesting kind of info that I was given. Like, am I still able to pump in this area, or because I'm the only one who uses that room. So it was just real interesting to hear that. But I told them that I still would like to use the space, and they were able to accommodate that. So yeah, I guess the only improvements for the future would be to have like a designated lactation room only, that it's not used as like a office space as well as a lactation room. But other than that, like, I think I've been pretty blessed with being able to pump at work.
Thanks, Andrea. Yeah, I forget, it was kind of bad timing. Andrea just returned off maternity, and we had to move. Another person the whole department had to move. So it was a lot of but they still did accommodate. They had, even when WIC was under construction, they're like, all right, where are we going to put lactation? And, so it was kind of a rotating type of thing. But definitely that's where it comes in with that shared space, because it gets to be a, are you going to have it? Do I have it? And then, yeah, any person in the right mind is going to feel bad and inconvenience somebody, like, knock, knock, my turn, and kind of, and I know they did have construction over there, and I'm not sure if they, thought about maybe adding a different room or somewhere else in the building. And I know our building overall here at the clinic, we've outgrown, 5 to 10 years ago. So, and somebody else had mentioned too, a thing that when I talked to the engineer, one of the engineers of the tribe, I had said, another thing I'd like to add is when you talk about future projects, brand new buildings, just like a restroom, a lactation room needs to be added, instead of we're working backwards for a lot of the buildings. And I think tribal wide too, we purchased these old buildings. Obviously that's not going to have an assigned lactation room, but if you have somebody on that committee on the, planning, I think that's what he's on, is the planning, development and planning committee, is that, especially in Native communities, this needs to be a have and a must. We have restrooms for women and men. I did get some pushback from one location. But kind of with that elderly situation, like, why do we have to have one? There's nothing but elderly around here. I said, it's not going to be that way forever, and like, how many people are going to use it? Why do we have to have this? I said, maybe you won't have any now, but you'll have some in the future. Just like now you have a building full of women. Why do you have to have a men's restroom? Like, you need a female restroom, it's required. You need a male restroom, it's required. You need a lactation room, it's required. That's kind of where we need to be one step up going forward, is advocating that this is a must, and we need to find a separate, not shared location for our moms, because we want them to be productive, and they need to have a place to go and have it ready and available to adjust to their schedule. Because, Andrea is needed back in the office, so she needs to get in, get out, and, get things done. So that's just my thought on a shared space. It's very difficult. And if you can avoid it, that would be the best option. Anybody else work in this area, your facility, and have any experiences with lactation at work would like to share?
Hey, Candy, this is Debbie.
Hey.
So the health center right now, they're working on like remodeling or expanding the health center. And the supervisors in our area did meet with the team that are going to be doing the construction. And that was one of my requests to them, was we need to have a designated lactation room, not an office, but an actual room for the moms. So I did pass that on.
Yes. Awesome. Thanks. And you think of it from, like I said, being productive, coming from a supervisor's perspective, like, we need this so my staff can, be available and it's on their schedule to do, versus hunting around for an office, waiting for that person to leave. So, as far as productivity, and, we're all about keeping and helping our employees be, happy in the workplace. I mean, there's tons of way of justifying it, but a lot of times it just needs to be, advocated, and some people forget. And I was on the Sustain Oneida meeting on Friday, and this is where we talk about blood quantum and talk about where our population is. And right now we are dealing with, remember, we have that large workforce of baby boomers that are about to retire, and it's going to be a fresh new batch of people coming in. And with breastfeeding support increasing and improving, I think we're going to have a lot more moms in the workplace needing a place to pump. So continue to advocate if you are. And any questions, or if you need any other information from me, definitely reach out. Anybody have anything else to share about lactation in the workplace?
I just have to say, Cami, it's amazing, or Candy, it's amazing. I was reading Cami's name at the end. Candy, it's amazing how much community support you have built up in the last several years with your work. I mean, the fact that you have, I mean, it really seems like a complete attitude change where you have people calling you now. I think that's amazing, absolutely amazing. I know in some of the work we've done in some of the tribes, we've gotten a room, but then it ends up being taken over for something else that's deemed more important. So I
Mhm.
think, you know, really your philosophy that, hey, this is just like a restroom or just like any other required component. I think a lot of our sites are still working on that. So it's just really amazing that you know, you've got supervisors looking at schedules ahead of time as moms return to work to be able to even adjust their location to work to make sure they have that space to pump. That's fantastic. That's just amazing. Just congratulations on all the work that you have done and your whole community supporting that. It's been it's been so fun to watch and I love your pictures.
Yeah, the
That
before
really
and
shows
after,
it.
and I would send them to the supervisors I worked with. I'm like, show everybody these before and after, and any moms that you get, you know, because it's kind of
Mhm.
like word of mouth. You know, the population that utilize them right now is small right now, but that isn't a factor for me. These needs to be in buildings, and it's an additional benefit and attractive for future staff. I mean, you should see our website. We are in desperate need of staff, and if we can provide any additional benefits, you know,
Right.
to them, like we have this great lactation suite, you know. I mean, like NWTC, I work over there part-time, and they added them with their construction. They're down by the cafeteria. Nice, like literally it's a nice suite. They go in for students and staff to pump. And I'm not sure the dates or the years on the laws, but I remember in 2000 and in 97 when I had mine, I was in a bathroom in a school with kids knocking on my door. You know what I mean? It was, and now I was like, where was I supposed to go? Nobody, I didn't know at the time. But yeah, we've come a long way. So if anything, I'm making improvements in a better place than what I had to deal with. Yeah, so it's fun work. I mean, I think my side job, I do like to decorate. So I'm like, I'm off, I'm off with my lamps and my posters and yeah. So,
You
and then
also mentioned policy work within that. What role have
yeah,
you played in that? I mean, has that been pretty much left to each location or do you feel like
yep.
that's been something you've had to have a part in?
So with my first group was the casinos. Their policies have to go through really, you know, stringent authorizations. They have to have tons of signatures, and for security, you know, reasons, that was a really long process. But it got to the point of actually being finalized. And then I think governmental services is probably going to be the next one. Tina seems real, and it is. It's like your expertise in policies. Not a lot of people have that. And then you kind of have like a skeleton policy and you just have to put it in. But when you deal with paid breaks for the casino and then for retail, they only have a half-hour lunch. All that comes into play. And unfortunately, that's not my expertise. I usually will just send them copies and, you know, how can I support you? Do you need anything else? How's it going? You know, just being very persistent as far as their progress. It's me again. How's that policy? And that one time it was throughout COVID, and my contact person, her email didn't work anymore. They're like, oh yeah, she don't work here anymore. I'm like, oh man. So I had to find a new contact. How's that policy going? Yeah, that is the difficult part, because when you get into paid time off and all that has to be written in and all of that. So that is the tricky part. So if you have any expertise in policies, you know, great, and share that with the organizations you're working with.
And we have a comment, the casino in Lac du Flambeau is really behind in times. Our pump station is in our locker room / bathroom.
Yeah, the old casino, I'm sorry, I think it's the main casino, the locker room. So she gave me a full tour, and you go into a locker room. It's set up like a regular locker room. And then there's bins here and bins here. And then I was like, what is that one circle thing? They put a curtain just in the middle so the woman could sit on a bench and put a curtain around her in the middle of the locker room. They're like, that was our pumping station before. Yeah, it was. So like I said, the champions there were like, this has to change. They took that out right away when they started. They seen that. They're like, no, they found a room. They made it happen. Then I just came along, gave them another push, added other buildings, and then really worked on that policy, because that, especially with how much staff they have and the time off, it gets pretty tricky. So that's why their policy took quite an extensive amount of time, but totally worth it.
Any
Any
other
other-
questions for Candy, or comments, experiences, any positive stories? I see a comment come in. We have lactation areas at our casino, but it is still in the restroom and it needs to be better. I was trying to figure out ways. Then COVID happened, of course. So your presentation has sparked some new ideas, Candy. Thank you.
Yes, definitely. If you need anything else, it literally, once you get the hang of it, when I did the first batch at the casino, then I provided each of those places with the same thing. So once I get my grant money, once the funding is established, I'll buy 3 refrigerators, 3 tables, 3 fans. You know what I mean? I have everything set that I ordered each year, but I choose a different site. So it's just, I keep everything that I need, and we're fortunate to be able to order from Amazon, which is very, cheap compared to, or if you have like we have Staples, they'll have fans, they'll have clocks, at a reasonable price. So just kind of what you need to order. And then like the bare minimum is basically without a bathroom, which isn't ideal, but if you have even a room where and then the next is we like to have a fridge in all the areas. And then what else was there? Bathroom, sink, a fridge, and then like I said, just a sole place, not a shared area. And I know the scheduling can be a little bit difficult too. Like Andrea said, she was fortunate at the time to be one of 2 and then the only one. But if you do have 2 or 3, then I had like whiteboards outside where the moms would be able to write in their times and, communicate with each other. And I know at one time our Oneida WIC program was able to do, we have like our Outlook email has a place that has like scheduling area, so they could go in there and electronically schedule for each week. So most often when moms begin, they're pumping about 2 times a day, which is doable. They should be able to, take breaks that 15 to 30 minutes with supervisor permission. So this is something that makes sense. This is something that you can make work, and you need to advocate in your place to, because just think of if you were a mom returning to work like me, I didn't think about any of this. Went to work with my pump. Now what? There wasn't anybody greeting me at the door saying, hey, welcome back. This is where we have for you to pump. But, it'd been nice if my supervisor, but had a male principal, and he's like, about time you got back, Candy. I was like, thanks. But yeah, I've been real fortunate to get supervisors and champions in the places. So if you have even a mom or a supervisor in the location that you're working with that can get you in, you start with a tour, you start with leaving your recommendations with the supervisor, or if you have a room saying, my recommendations are to use this room or this room. And then and it's really helpful that I come with things versus me asking for things. So I'm able to give you a fridge, a table, some decorations, a schedule. I'm going to leave pamphlet of handouts and my contact information. So it's really like a really good partnership, because we know all the supervisors and division directors are just buried as it is. They're low staff, all of that. So I come in with, this is what I have, work with me. I mean, who can say no?
And I think you made a good point earlier that this could be a benefit for some families that are looking for work and are maybe comparing different employers, and to have someone that would be able to support their breastfeeding needs is really a benefit. So just going to read another comment from the chat. We don't have anywhere at our casino or tribal businesses for mothers to pump or nurse. I was fortunate enough to bring my children to work with me and nursed in the comfort of my own office. But really businesses and the casino need somewhere for mothers, and absolutely agree. Not many people have that luxury to be able to take babies to work or they have a limited time, they can
Mhm.
do that. So definitely important for businesses to consider that option.
And
Um,
if you're working with moms prenatally and postpartum, like I am, this is something that's often not talked about. Like in childbirth education class, I'll say, well, they're worried about having the baby. Okay, we talk about that. And then baby's well checks. And then, I'll have some of my clients, and I found this later on. That's why I decided to kind of look more into breastfeeding. And they're like, I'm going back to work in a week. How am I going to feed my baby? So it's really, if you have that chance, is actually talking and educating moms prenatally and preparing them. Because some moms think, the super young moms are like, how do I prepare? I mean, they just get home and they think they have to pump and save for when they return to work. So we're not thinking about this, and we'll talk about this and we'll help you plan. Only 2 weeks before you need to go to work. And sometimes they don't know that. So if you can provide that education and help them, where do you work? Do you have a place to pump? Because I'll know it's overwhelming to return to work after you had a baby and you're crying for your baby. And and like someone said, I would have loved to have my babies brought to me and nursed. That is the ideal situation. So I always bring that up. You have somebody, a relative, can they bring baby to you? Or if it's the very last, you would have to pump at work that day and then have somebody deliver the milk. So brainstorming different ideas. But I found that to be a missing gap in education, is they don't prepare, and they don't really think that far ahead of, how do I feed my baby the first day? When do I pump, and where do I pump? Those are really things that I added in my education to make sure moms are ready to go back to work and, be successful.
Yeah, I think education is definitely something in any aspect of breastfeeding. So that's an excellent point, Candy. We did get a question in the chat about how would breaks work? How would breaks work? Is pumping considered your break? I worked at the casino 5 years ago, and it was stressful to pump, clean parts, and then trying to eat as well. And then Stefana just followed up with, pumping shouldn't be considered a break. How do we navigate this as a concern from employees that I might get as clients? So thoughts on that as far as the breaks?
Yeah, for the casino, I thought they did get like 2 15-minute breaks and a half-hour lunch for an 8-hour shift. For us here, it's for an 8-hour. That's what's for the tribe. So I would probably really look to your HR to see, because the casino probably would need guidance then in that. But if they're saying no, they can't do it on their breaks, or they have to do it on their breaks, so I would really get a clear picture from HR what's set in stone for staff. And sometimes gaming is different than an 8 to 4, because they have second shift, and they did at one time had third shift. So I would probably, to be helpful and assist them, is reminding them what's in there. And then if it's not doable, can it be changed, and where do you start that change? It'd be like the top up in gaming. But definitely gaming needs a place. If we can make it work, I think and they should, they want their employees back.
Any other questions or comments or anything that you wanted to share with Candy or the group?
I did have a question for anybody out there. I've been hearing more about is it battery run pumps? If anybody had experience with them, they were saying, instead of the electrical plug-in, a lot of moms are asking me, like, I want those ones on the go so I can do stuff. And I didn't know, I kind of heard of a brand, but I didn't know if anybody had experience using one and what their thoughts were on that. Because I'm assuming these are the ones that are not covered by insurance, because the slide I showed you before are the ones Badger Care, around here at least. If you get the Badger Care form filled out, medical equipment place would call you, and you would either get the Medela or the Amida. So I'm assuming it's a different brand.
I can't remember the brand name for Can Care for in Kansas, but we do have under that, and also through some of the regular insurances that you can get the battery operated and hands, like it's hand free.
Yeah.
What are the ones called where they kind of look like a pasty that goes on and it helps pump. I've had
Oh,
some clients that were able to get those through their state insurance, and they've actually really, really loved them. And sometimes you can actually use them while you're still working.
that's what I was thinking, because these younger gals were like, I want one of those things where I can do stuff. And I'm like, okay, you can kind of move around and do stuff. I didn't know, like exactly. I didn't know if they were doing a task.
I will say, I don't know if they're very accommodating to the well-endowed mamas.
Okay. Yeah, and really, they deserve a break and should be able to sit down. And that's what I was trying to tell them too, the younger ones. I'm like, if you're away from your baby and you have to pump, or maybe this means they want to use it, maybe baby skipped a feeding and they want to do stuff around the house. That's something different. But I didn't want them to feel like they have to walk around work and be pumping hands-free, you know. So I didn't have much experience or see any of those come across yet. So just wondering.
I just Googled it quick and it says top 7 hands-free pumps. So there must be some variety of different brands of those as well. I see Tashina put, she has the Oneida Maya portable pump.
Oh, okay.
Not hands-free, but can you wear it in her bra. So it allows her to be hands-free. I think it looks like Anita has a Spectra that is battery run, but not hands-free. So there's a lot out there. Holy cow.
Yeah, yeah. And that's a market I'm not too familiar with, you know, so the pumps, like what's good, what's not. Usually I just go through the basics. That's another thing too for the education is I went to work and now I'm producing less, and they really are not given a lot of education on the settings or the phalanges. So I cover that in our breastfeeding class, and really encourage them to watch the brand video that they have, you know, if it's Medela, to watch it, because it could just be a simple thing that the phalange isn't working, or they could be missing that white thing on the Medela and it's not suctioning anymore, you know, like brainstorming that. So that's also a good education point is what pump do you have? You know, watch a video about it, you know, check the phalanges, check the settings, all those type of things. Because who knows if, you know, some moms might not even use their pump the entire time when they're on maternity leave, take it to work. So that's another good resource to have in the lactation rooms is like the pumping, I guess, websites.
Okay, any other last minute comments or questions? I just see a lot of thank you in the comments. Thanks for bringing this as such an amazing topic. And again, Candy, you have done such great work in the last few years, and we appreciate you sharing those and sharing your experiences and what's worked for you. I want to also just remind everyone, I'm going to stop